Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Jebb Riley to the podcast. Jebb has been in some amazing bands, including There Were Wires and Doomriders. Jebb's new project is called Teardrops, and they recently released their debut EP, Something to Cry About, on Iodine Records. Jebb talks about the impact of local rock radio and record stores on his musical taste, connecting with Iodine during the label's initial run, and how they reunited for There Were Wires reissues, joining Doomriders, and we close talking about Teardrops, the new EP, and the future of the band. I love Something to Cry About. It's another gem in Iodine's amazing catalog, and if you're a fan of hardcore and punk rock, you'll dig this EP too. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're new to the show, welcome. Thanks for checking out this episode. New to the podcast is Jorm6194 over on YouTube, who commented and said, I saw the band share this on their Instagram. So cool to hear more detail about the album getting released. The themes definitely come through, and it's such a powerful record. These guys are awesome. That is from Chapter 525 with Jared Wallace of State Vaults. Thanks so much to State Vaults for sharing the podcast on their social media channels. And thanks so much, Jorm, for listening to the episode. If this is your first time listening, you can leave a comment. I'll read it on the podcast. You can find links in our show notes to our Discord server, mailing list, and Patreon page. Enjoy today's conversation with Jebb Riley from Teardrops.
I don't know how to start. You got a hole in your heart, and it goes right through. Gotta get away from you. Yeah, I gotta confess, I got a hole in my chest. Yeah, you left your mark. You tried to take my heart.
Where do you live?
DC, just north of DC.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Are you still up in Boston or that area?
Yeah, right on the Mass-New Hampshire border. It's a small town called Tingsboro.
Okay. I'm not familiar enough with my New England geography, but
Most people have heard of Lowell
yeah. Yeah.
because of the movie The Fighter or stuff like that.
Yeah. Nice.
We're right next to Lowell.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Is that roughly where you grew up, or you just kind of migrate?
I grew up in Tingsboro and then moved away to go to college, but then moved back.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Lived in Boston for a little while.
Yeah. Boston's happening place. It's happening spot, especially if
It
you
is, yeah. I mean, you move away and you don't go there for a while and you think nothing's happening, then you go there and there's a lot happening. There's like a ton more buildings, or the buildings you remember being there are gone and they're replaced with something that's higher. All new people there.
Yeah, it was funny. I saw Caspian at 930 Club, and I've probably not been to 930 Club in well over a decade.
Okay.
We moved in. I lived in Philadelphia for a while, and it was just like, oh, this part of town isn't shitty anymore.
Right, yeah.
It's like, look at all these nice restaurants and bars, and I probably won't get robbed.
Yeah. I mean, that's real. That's happening all over the place, even up where I live, which is more suburban. We're right on the border of like where it goes, because Lowell's a city.
Yeah.
It's a straight up city. And then the next town over from us is country farms and stuff. So we are like the suburban line between urban and rural.
Good times.
But yeah.
What was growing up like for you?
Oh, well, I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm still sometimes growing up, Sure. I mean, I was raised in a small town. I guess it's that classic story, small town, a lot of small minds, not a lot of culture. The things that I was exposed to were from my, I guess my arty leaning mom. My mom exposed me to a lot of arts and culture and stuff. That's what she was into. And, a single parent raising an only child until she met a guy, and then he was like essentially they never got married, but I called him my stepfather.
Yeah.
And that was interesting because it turned out he was an alcoholic, So it was like a nice relationship at first, and then we slowly realized that he was an alcoholic, and that was, from 11 to 18, what it was like living in that house. I don't know if anybody's listening who has dealt with a alcoholic partner or parents. It's not fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that like affected me a lot till later on in life. But I mean, growing up around here was nice. It's quiet. It's country-ish. I think like a lot of kids my age, so I was born in 79. I'm 45 now. Like a lot of kids my age, I really found out about music in the early 90s when there was a massive sea change and all this. It went from Milli Vanilli being the number one song to overnight Nirvana was the number one song.
Yeah.
So that was a massive change.
Yeah. That 90s rock era is so interesting because like grunge was huge, but like the alternative rock scene, it was just kind of like weird shit was popular and it was just like nobody cared. It was just like, that's kind of cool. And there was no like everything can be so cookie cutter, for a long time. But it's like that era, it's like produced all these weird, unique bands.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder how many of those weird bands were around before that never got any play. They never got any like sunlight on them. Because I think a lot of the bands, well, it's not even just my opinion, it's been talked about a lot that a lot of the bands that were promoted in the 90s in like the wake of Nirvana, it was all because of Nirvana, and everybody was looking for, like all the labels were looking for the next big thing. Yeah. So they were just throwing money at anything that was remotely promising. Yeah. Which, a lot of bands got fucked over, but there was a lot of cool shit that got recorded and promoted. Something strikes a chord, and sometimes we don't know why it gets popular, but it does. And that's, hey, if people if an audience finds their band and a band finds their audience, that's great. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff out there that I'm not into, but I'm not gonna, unless it's like offensively ignorant, I'm not gonna hate on it. Yeah. But there's a lot that's offensively ignorant. So we could do a whole podcast about that.
We sure could. At what point did you discover like underground music, punk or hardcore metal? Like
that was probably like, well, I guess the good side of my stepfather moving in was he had a son, and we got really close. He was a year older than me, and he kind of came with a lot of music knowledge that I didn't. I was very into music. I would tape the songs that I liked on the radio, because there was a radio station out here who would play like heavier and weirder and local music after 9 p.m. And as soon as I got a radio in my room, I would stay up past my bedtime and just listen to like whatever stuff was happening. Yeah. I didn't know what it was. It was cool and weird and scary, and I was hooked. But he showed me a lot of things, and we would go to the record store and just buy CDs based on what the covers looked like. Like, oh, this looks interesting. Let's check it out. And there was so grew up in Tingsboro. There was a shop in Billerica called Slipped Disc, and it was a new and used CD store, music store. I mean, records were pretty dead at that point. Yeah. But you could go there, and if something was used, not wrapped, they would put it on like the house system. So and I was like, what does this Godflesh band sound like? Can I hear what this sounds like? They'd be like, yeah, man, give it to me, I'll put it on. And I found out about a ton of music that way just by, sampling it in real time. It was super cool. Store's not there anymore, but it definitely opened my eyes and ears to a lot of music.
Yeah. Was there a good scene in Lowell that once you start discovering stuff, you start going to shows, or was it not later till you like went out to Boston?
I traveled a lot for concerts in the early and mid 90s. There was a quote unquote scene in Lowell. I wasn't really a part of it. It was like a layer removed from me, or it was like hiding under a layer that I wasn't aware of. So I was into a lot of underground weird music, but it was just kind of like United States, and it was like general underground. There was a lot of like European stuff and American stuff, but I wasn't really privy to like the local scene until I got to college. Started meeting people out there, and they were like, "Oh, there's all these cool Boston bands." But I would go into Boston and go to Worcester and Fitchburg and see concerts. Seeing like the Melvins and Helmet and all sorts of weird, bizarre shit. But once I got to college, then I found out about like the local scene.
Gotcha. I meant to ask this earlier, because your stepfather figure was an alcoholic. Did that drive you in any decision making forward? Like, did you like unintentionally become straight edge, or just like impact your thoughts on alcohol and drugs? Because I've talked to a bunch of people, and that's like they just were straight edge because they saw it. Were like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think a combination of seeing the worst of a person, or the worst of like an adult figure, and also at the same time, my peer group in high school was starting to experiment with drugs and alcohol. And it's weird how you see people, you get so used to someone being the way they are, and then you see them under the influence of something when they're perhaps not ready to be doing that, or they can't control themselves like some people can. And it made me think, I don't want to do that. I connected the dots pretty easily. Like, oh, what's the difference? What's the catalyst for this behavior? It's the alcohol. There was one day in high school where someone brought in acid and gave it to like 40 kids. There were 40 kids on acid in high school, and everyone was acting all bonkers. And it was weird to see that. Yeah. People talk about the hive mind, or when everyone starts acting different at the same time. And it was like it was a really interesting, an extreme example of that. Yeah. Everybody doing one thing and acting totally bizarre. Yeah. But I understand it's, there's a foreign chemical in your brain making you do stuff, making you interpret the world differently. So when I went to college, I tried some stuff. I smoked weed. I tried beers for the first time in college, but then I quickly realized it just wasn't for me. Yeah. I took school seriously. There was really nothing I wanted to do. There was nothing my high school offered me that I was interested in. So when I got to college, I was very interested in taking advantage of it. So, drinking a beer or two on Thursday night and having a hard time getting up for my Friday classes, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? This is an opportunity. I'm not going to waste it. So I just stopped drinking. I didn't really know what straight edge was. And then I ended up meeting some folks later, and they like talked about straight edge. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of doing that. All right. Yeah.
I guess this is my thing.
Yeah. And it was necessity. And, a lot of the people who I was surrounding myself with who were straight edge were nice people. We could just have fun conversations and laugh and joke. And there wasn't the weird, like, oh, you're being weird now because you're boozed up.
Right. Yeah.
It's like more reliable. And, some of those straight edge people were assholes, but they're reliably assholes. They're going to be assholes where they're there. The drink doesn't make them nice.
Yeah.
Some people, the drink makes them an asshole. Some people, the drink makes them nice.
Let's talk about There Were Wires. How did that project get started, and what was your involvement?
That started in college. I had a class with a guy named Neil who was in a band, and I went to go hang out with his band as they played a show. And I met this whole group of people who were from Martha's Vineyard and became close to them, started hanging around with them and going to their to their shows. They were playing in a band called Still Waiting. Though some of the people in that band had another band called Acracia, which was a more Still Waiting was kind of like a, I guess you'd say emo, like late 90s emo.
Yeah.
And they had a heavier project with a friend of theirs who was living in Chicago, the singer Jamie. And that was called Acracia. They were getting ready to do a Still Waiting Acracia joint tour in the summer down the East Coast. And their bassist couldn't do it or didn't want to do it. They asked me if I wanted to play because I ended up starting a band with the guy Neil. And I was down. I was just really looking forward to playing music. And it was a cool opportunity. And so we did the Acracia tour, had a little lineup change, ended up changing the name to There Were Wires. And then, yeah, that's how There Were Wires started.
Nice. Was that kind of chaotic nature to the sound always there? Was that like influenced from, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of that same time, Botch, Coalesce, like Dead Guys all happening, right? Like,
yeah, I think, you know,
that pain,
Dead Guy, Kiss It Goodbye, Rorschach, Coalesce were, and, you know, At the Gates, all sorts of like metal and chaotic hardcore. Like just the term chaotic hardcore is a term that fits Wires and fits like the influence of what we all, the things we all had in common as far as influences in that band.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. You guys were a band on the first iteration of Iodine Records. How'd you meet Casey and end up working with the label?
We started doing some stuff ourselves. We went to a guy's house and we went to this guy, Keith Sousa's house. Keith now co-owns Machines with Magnets in Providence, Rhode Island, a great studio. He was recording at his house in Tiverton, I believe, at his mom's house. And I think we had some friends who had recorded there. They said good things about it. And so actually, let me back up a little bit. We recorded our demo. We recorded a demo with Kurt from Converge at like one of the early iterations of God City.
Yep.
That was supposed to be a 7-inch, but the people who were going to put out the 7-inch like backed out or something. It's a little hazy because it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
But that ended up being our demo. So we played shows and used that recording from God City as our demo. I think all we have is a cassette, like an early generation cassette. We don't have DATs or no CDRs or anything. So we decided we needed a better, longer recording. So then we hooked up with Steve. Sorry, not Steve. We hooked up with Keith and recorded the full length at his house. And I think maybe he recorded everything in 2 days and mixed in one. It was a really short project, but we were young and motivated, scrappy. And we put that out ourselves. We paid a company to make the CDRs, and we had a friend who worked at Kinko's who hooked us up with all the packaging, and we did it all. We stapled it and cut it and printed it all ourselves. And we were passing those around. And I think as we were doing this, just wanting to do a thing and take it seriously, people took notice. And, we got a nice, like, we had a really heartfelt or like close knit, I guess, audience from the shows we were playing. It was the right time. It was the right place. It was the right audience. And it was like, it was a fun and close knit group.
Yeah.
And I think Casey's at some point, Casey found out and he was into it. We had talked to Death Wish about doing a record. And I think one of the members in the band at the time wasn't into it for some reason. We ended up going with Casey. We had a conversation with Casey later, and I guess it made more sense for everybody. This is no shade at Death Wish. I think they're great guys and a great label. It just didn't work out with them. But we ended up going with Casey, and it's been a really good relationship. He's the top dude, Yeah.
Yeah. Was it his idea once he brought the label back to do the vinyl reissues?
Well, we had been approached by our friend Paul in Rhode Island. He runs a label called Tor Johnson.
Yeah.
He reached out to us. So I'll back up again. There was our sister band was called Moment. They were, the Lifetime to our Converge.
Yeah.
And so Thomas played guitar in Moment. He also played guitar in There Were Wires. And Paul at Tor Johnson had done the LP discography for Moment. And he reached out to see if we would be interested in issuing any of our things on vinyl, because there had been a split 7-inch and a regular 7-inch for Their Wires, and that's it. They're like the records were not on vinyl, or the full length things were not on vinyl.
Yeah.
And it was a long process. It was like a 3, 4, 5 year process trying to hunt stuff down. But in that process, we talked to Casey, like, hey, can we have your blessing to do this? Do you have any of these recordings lying around so we can get them remixed or remastered? And you'd have to talk to Casey about it. But I think the momentum or like the enthusiasm grew from like, yeah, I'll give this a thumbs up, to maybe I'll be a part of it, to maybe I'll help put it out. Maybe I'll help put other stuff out. And it just kind of grew and grew. And he's said that record, when we reissued Somnambulists on vinyl, that was the catalyst for getting the label back. So it's great. It's cool that we have a part in that, because there's been a lot of great records that he's put out. It's not to get too sappy, but it's like, it's touched a lot of people. Not, I don't mean like in a heart, like tug at your heartstrings, but like the community keeps growing. There's a lot of bands, and the bands have like audiences and families, and it keeps growing, and it's spreading in a cool way.
Yeah. It's like this really cool place for bands that are reuniting to put out new music, but then like people who have new projects like you, who are just like, hey, I got this thing. And it's like, that scene just keeps growing, and it's great. And it doesn't feel like Casey's out there being like, all right, you have to tour for 200 days this year.
I think
there's an expectation of what the music industry actually is, and how everybody's all in our 40s, right?
Right. It's and there are younger bands on Iodine who can do that. Yeah. Or even folks my age, like Jerome's Dream are touring a lot more than There Were Wires are, or probably ever will. Yeah. If you can make it work, then do it. Yeah. I think that I don't want to speak for Casey, but I think when the label came back, he just approached it differently and tried to figure out, what do I want to do? Either what do I want to do, and how can I make that work? Or what can I do with what can happen with my skill set or my available time? Yeah. And so I think he's trying to not overextend himself. They're doing a lot, him and Jesse and Joe they have a lot of releases for this year and a lot of releases for next year. They're working very hard over there. Yeah. So I wish them success.
If I read press releases, I would have more information before I was like, oh, I want to talk to this person. But you were on one of my favorite albums of all time, Doomriders, Darkness Comes Alive. How'd you end up working with Doomriders?
I was working at Newbury Comics. That was my out of high school. That was my college job. So I started out of high school working at Newbury Comics. I worked at a few different stores, and one of the ones I was working at was close to where Nate Newton from Doomriders and Converge was living, and he would come in before he'd had to go on tour. It was like a routine where he'd come in with a duffel bag full of CDs that he had gotten on his previous tour. Like clubs or other bands would give him CDs, and he would sell the ones that he didn't want, and get some money to pay rent or provide on tour. And There Were Wires and Converge had played a show together, and I'd seen Converge a bunch, so I was familiar with him, but I just introduced myself and we would chat when he'd come into the store. And we got to talking one day, and he told me about a project that he was doing and what the sound that he was kind of going for was. And it was up my alley, and I was like, yeah, if you're looking for someone to play bass, let me know. That sounds like something that would be fun. He had already kind of worked out some ideas with Chris, the other guitarist, and I think they might have tried a drummer or two, but they had a good friend named Chris Bevilacqua.
Yeah.
And he's in Teardrops now. He was on the first Doomriders record. But I met Chris because he was also working for Newbury Comics, and we ended up doing like an inventory shift together. And I was like, hey, Nate, talk to me about this band. You're the guy that is also in this band that hasn't happened yet. We should fucking make this happen. So I kind of bothered them all, like, hey, let's do this. We can use their Wires practice space. Let's just go and see what happens. So we got together, and yeah, that's how it started.
Nice.
I mean, there was a start before I joined the band. Nate and Chris were working at ideas, but that's how it all like came together.
Let's talk about this new project, Teardrops.
Yeah.
On the Iodine site says this started 2020. I mean, let's talk about this band and how it came together. And this is your brainchild, yeah?
I mean, I had an idea. I think it's like a bunch of different brain children came together to form like a super brainchild, if that's even a term. I had ideas for a thing, and I didn't know what the thing was, but I had been kind of squirreling away song ideas since we were writing the last Doomriders record, Grand Blood. There were ideas that I had during that didn't make it onto the album, and I just kept. Well, I would bring ideas to the band on bass, and it's hard for some people to hear a bass line and like come up with something to do with that. So they said, why don't you just get a guitar and write stuff on guitar and show us like guitar ideas? That'd be easier. So I took their advice. I got a guitar. I started writing stuff on guitar. And I think what came out naturally wasn't necessarily a good fit for Doomriders or the other band I was doing at the time, Disappear. It was faster, more aggressive, a little more, rocking, if you will. But I thought the stuff was cool. I liked it. It resonated with me. And so I would just record like little demos here and there of the ideas that I did. And they grew and grew and grew. And I ended up talking to Bev at some point. We had he had this fun jam session he works for the YMCA for YMCA in Massachusetts, and he has access to this cottage. And so we had a fun jam sesh where a bunch of people got together and just jammed out.
Yeah.
As much as a bunch of hardcore dudes can jam, fit or anything, but it was just going and having fun playing music. And he messaged me. We talked about maybe doing something, but I think time just got in the way, or life happened and we never did it. And then he messaged me out of the blue. It's like, hey man, what's up with Riffs? And I messaged him back. You must have we must have a psychic link, because the day before I was washing dishes and I was like, man, I got all these songs. I should talk to Bev and see if he wants to play drums. And seriously, the next day he messaged me.
Nice.
So we started throwing ideas back and forth, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
So it was weird. We didn't want to get together, but it was, it was great because we had all this free time to focus on recording and learning more about recording shit and sending ideas back and forth. And we did that for a little while. And then we figured, well, I don't think this could really live in the world as a 2-piece. So who else is gonna join it, or who else is gonna help us out?
Yeah.
But Bev had a lot of ideas. These weren't all just my ideas. Bev's a great songwriter. He can play guitar, bass, drums. So he would send over, some things were guitar, some things were guitar and drums, some things were just drums. So, he had a lot of cool ideas. I had ideas, and then I messaged Joe. Joe played in a great band from New England called Purity's Failure. Purity's Failure and There Were Wires played a lot of shows together, and I had always wanted to do a thing with Joe because he's a great songwriter, great dude, all around great dude. And we had we had done a short project together. Like, there's been so many bands and projects, but we had done a short project together. Me, my friend Thomas, again from There Were Wires, and Joe did a short project called No Flowers, and we played one show, and Joe played guitar in that band. So it was like, I'd love to do another thing if the time ever comes. So the time came, asked him, he said yes. And then he started sending ideas, and those ideas were also great.
Nice.
And then we needed a bassist. I used to work with this guy named Earl at the First Act Guitar Custom Shop in Boston. And he's a ripping guitarist and bassist. And he said yes. So then we had a band, and then we practiced, and then we finished, and then we wrote more songs.
Nice. Is this your first foray into like vocalist and lyricist?
No, I did a band called Disappear. So when There Were Wires broke up, myself and the drummer Ryan and the guitarist Thomas still wanted to play music. Mm-hmm. Our singer moved cross country to Portland, and our other guitarist just didn't want to do anything, and he moved on, and he's living his life. We still wanted to play music, so we changed the name to Disappear and just kept on doing stuff.
Nice. There
were some lineup changes. Ryan left the band. Our friend Matt, who played in Moment, ended up playing drums, and then we did a full length with Matt, and that's when I started singing in that band. So that was my first time being the singer.
Yeah.
And I also did that in the No Flowers project, which is not on Spotify. It's on Bandcamp.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. EP's called Something to Cry About. Where'd that idea come from?
It's kind of just a theme to go along with the band name, Teardrops. It's a little tongue in cheek. There's not a whole lot of thought behind the title. I thought it was just something that, was eye catching or ear catching. It's a little sarcastic because it's not sappy. It's not sappy music.
No.
I thought it was like a way to, use that phrase in a different way than everybody than is usually used.
Yeah. Gotcha. You did the album artwork. Where that inspiration come from, and that's a photo you took?
No, it's the image is from like a 19-teens postcard of a sculpture, I think in Italy. I did the artwork just kind of out of necessity. That kind of happens a lot because artwork costs money.
Yeah,
we're doing these small independent bands, and while there are a lot of awesome artists out there, if we can keep it in house and do it quick, then that's usually preferred.
Yeah.
And I don't really want to get into. I like to be able to let people do their thing. If they're, if we're gonna have an artist do something, I want to let them just do their thing. But if there's an idea in the band that we want to get across, sometimes it's easier to work within the band.
Yeah.
I think just because we have a better, our dialogue, we know how each other think, and we can, maybe get a little ruder with each other. Like, that sucks, man. I don't know. And it's harder to talk like that to someone you're paying.
Yeah.
Then they might charge you more.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I was just looking for antique postcards that had that kind of vibe, and I found that, and it was perfect. So I stole it.
Nice. Did you come to Casey like, hey man, I got this new project. Do you want to put it out? Or was it kind of just like sharing music with your friend? Hey, here's my new thing. And he was like, oh, this is good. I want to put it out.
It was a little of both. I told him that I had a thing, and he said, I'd love to hear it. And I shared it with him. Not if he wasn't into it, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
And I, we would have taken it somewhere else or put it out ourselves. I didn't feel like he owed me or owed us anything.
Yeah.
But it was cool that he liked it and wanted to put it out. It's a little validating,
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, this is good, man. Let's put it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to feel good.
Yeah.
EP's been out about a week now. What's the plan? Are you guys going to look to try to play some shows here and there? Is it just like, everybody's got jobs and lives and just like,
yeah,
because you recorded it yourself, it's like there's not pressure to like recoup money.
Yeah, there's
as
not
much, right?
There's not a ton of external pressure.
Yeah.
There's no one leaning on us, but we have been writing. So we recorded this EP this time last year. So it's August 1st. It's August 2nd right now.
Yeah.
We were in the midst of recording this time last year, and it's taken a long time. There were some hiccups in the road to recording, on the way to mixing. There's when you're doing it yourself and you're learning how to do it in the moment, you always hit snags.
Yeah.
That's fine. I think it makes you more connected to the process, and you'll learn, and that's valuable. But when it's great now that it's out, because it's been a lot of waiting. But I think having to wait, 6 months between it being done and it coming out, we're just itching to play shows. We're itching to write more songs. We're itching to record. We've been writing. We've been demoing stuff. We played a show last night with No Man, Love Letter, and Corrode in Boston, and the show went well. And we played 2 new songs. And we get another show in 2 weeks down in New Bedford. But yeah, I think the plan is just to keep writing and hopefully get stuff for a full length and record that.
See what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, we'd love to play more shows.